It all began with a few photos, innocent, sun-drenched, images of Meghan Markle enjoying a carefree day aboard a luxurious yacht. But what seemed like a private moment quickly spiraled into a global spectacle, a storm of ridicule, media scrutiny, and public judgment. Have you ever wondered how a few images could ignite a firestorm that no one could control? How a single delete button could suddenly become the epicenter of an international media frenzy? This isn't just another celebrity gossip story. This is a cautionary tale about fame, perception, and the unrelenting gaze of the world when it decides to scrutinize every move you make. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. The incident first caught attention not because of the images themselves, but because of what followed, the rapid disappearance of these photos from public view. Deleting them might have seemed like the natural reaction of someone trying to protect their privacy, someone attempting to shield themselves from judgment or speculation. But the deletion only fueled curiosity, and in the world of viral content, curiosity is the currency that drives everything. The internet doesn't forget, and neither does the media. What was once a fleeting personal moment suddenly became a symbol of scrutiny and scandal. And if you think it ended there, you're about to discover just how much more intense the story became. Within hours, social media erupted. Fans, critics, and casual observers alike speculated endlessly. Why were they deleted? Became the universal question. Conspiracy theories sprouted like wildfire, some benign, some cutting, others downright absurd. Was it a simple privacy concern? Or did it hint at something more controversial? Something that could taint the image of one of the most recognizable figures in the world? Every theory seemed plausible, and yet, none of them truly captured the heart of the storm. The tension was palpable. The world was watching, waiting, and judging. Then came Piers Morgan, a man who has built a career out of provoking strong reactions and leaving no opinion unspoken. If there is anyone in the media world who knows how to exploit a scandal, it's him. The moment he addressed the yacht photos on live television, the dynamics of the story shifted. It wasn't just speculation anymore. It was confrontation. It was public judgment delivered with the force of a seasoned broadcaster who knows precisely how to stoke outrage. And he didn't hold back. His words were sharp, his tone unmistakably mocking, and the effect was instantaneous. Viewers erupted in debate, both online and offline, as the world witnessed a rare convergence of celebrity scrutiny, media bravado, and public spectacle. But Morgan wasn't alone in this. As the days unfolded, other commentators, celebrities, and public figures weighed in. Each added their voice, their judgment, their take on what the deleted photos supposedly meant. Some were cruelly humorous, others scathingly critical, and a few cautiously analytical. The cacophony of opinions created a surreal backdrop against which Meghan's image was dissected and debated. Suddenly, it seemed that everyone had a turn, everyone had a perspective, everyone had an angle, and the narrative spiraled beyond control. What started as a few snapshots on a yacht had evolved into a worldwide debate about privacy, morality, and public perception. Why did this story matter now? Because in an era where every public figure is under the microscope, every decision, every gesture, and every post carries weight. Meghan Markle's experience is not isolated. It is emblematic of the modern celebrity paradox. The world expects them to be human, yet judges them as icons. They are celebrated for their choices, yet vilified for the slightest misstep. And in the case of these yacht photos, the deletion, an act meant to reclaim privacy, only amplified the public gaze. It forced the conversation into territories that were unexpected, uncomfortable, and at times, brutally revealing. The controversy has forced people to ask questions about fairness, double standards, and the immense pressure of living life under a global lens. How much scrutiny is too much? How much of our outrage is justified? And how much is performative? The public's reaction has been nothing short of extraordinary. Social media exploded with opinions, memes, and debates. News outlets dissected the event endlessly, each trying to capture the perfect headline, the precise angle, the most clickable take. The debate was no longer just about a few photographs. It was about identity, reputation, and the battle between privacy and publicity. Every new revelation, every reaction, every comment was dissected further, and every reaction added fuel to the fire. The yacht photos had become a mirror reflecting societal obsessions, prejudices, and the insatiable hunger for drama. And yet, amidst this whirlwind, Meghan herself has remained largely composed, at least publicly. Her responses, measured and careful, reveal a woman aware of the stakes and cognizant of the public gaze. But even the most carefully curated responses are scrutinized, dissected, and debated. In this story, silence can be interpreted as guilt, explanation can be twisted into admission, and even the most human gestures are subject to judgment. The stakes are high because what is at play here is not just public image. It is control over narrative, perception, and personal agency in a world that rarely allows it. The yacht photo scandal is, in many ways, a perfect storm. It combines the elements of modern celebrity culture. Private moments exposed, instantaneous public scrutiny, media amplification, and the endless debate over interpretation. And at the center of it all is Piers Morgan, whose live television commentary ignited further debate, driving attention, controversy, and conversation to levels few could have anticipated. His mocking tone, relentless critique, and fearless delivery have turned what might have been a minor incident into a cultural moment that is being dissected, remembered, and debated daily. But what makes this story truly remarkable is not just the scandal itself. It is the chain reaction, the way one deleted photo can ripple through social media, dominate news cycles, provoke public debate, and invite commentary from the most unlikely corners. It is a story about fame, about perception, and about the complexities of being a public figure in the modern era. And as the story continues to unfold, one fact becomes abundantly clear. In the world of celebrity, nothing ever truly disappears. Deletion is not erasure. Silence is not neutrality. Every action, every decision, every image carries weight, and every choice has consequences that extend far beyond what anyone could predict. And just when it seemed the story had reached its peak, a new twist emerged, a reaction, an observation, a comment that no one saw coming. Piers Morgan had set the tone, the public had responded with fervor, and social media had exploded, yet the real shocker was still ahead. What came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. It all started innocently enough, or at least, that's how it appeared at first glance. A set of photos surfaced online showing Meghan Markle aboard a sun-drenched yacht, smiling, relaxed, seemingly in a world far removed from palace life, royal protocols, and the unrelenting pressures of global scrutiny. To the casual observer, these images were simple, a woman enjoying a private moment in luxury. But, in today's hyper-connected society, nothing is ever simple. Every image, every post, every fleeting moment can be dissected, shared, and judged by millions across the globe. And this, as it turned out, was about to become the quintessential example of how quickly private enjoyment can become public spectacle. The yacht itself was no ordinary vessel. Sleek, elegant, and unmistakably lavish, it served as the perfect backdrop for photos that were, on their surface, innocuous. The sun glinted off the water, the horizon stretched endlessly, and Meghan appeared carefree, unburdened by the weight of her public persona, or so it seemed. Social media, however, rarely sees things this way. Once the images were posted, or, more accurately, once they were discovered, attention shifted almost immediately from mere curiosity to scrutiny. People began examining every detail, the way she held herself, her attire, the choice of accessories, even the angle of her smile. Every detail became a potential narrative. Every small nuance became a headline. At first, the photos seemed harmless enough. Many observers viewed them as a glimpse into the human side of someone who has been relentlessly portrayed in the media, sometimes unfairly. But then, the controversy began to simmer, and what had been a simple moment of personal joy transformed into a symbol of debate, speculation, and ultimately, conflict. Questions began to emerge. Why had the photos been deleted so quickly? Were they meant to be private and accidentally leaked? Or did they capture something that Meghan, or those managing her public image, had deemed inappropriate or potentially controversial? In an era where control of narrative is everything, deletion is often interpreted as admission, and silence is treated as guilt. The timing of these images played a crucial role in the eruption that followed. Meghan's life, both before and after her marriage into the royal family, has been relentlessly documented, scrutinized, and criticized. Every event, outfit, and appearance has been analyzed, dissected, and debated in the press. Add to this a society conditioned to devour scandal, especially when it involves figures of immense wealth and influence, and you have the perfect storm. The yacht photos weren't just photographs. They were symbols of a tension between private life and public consumption, between freedom and scrutiny, between perception and reality. What made the story explode, however, wasn't simply the photos themselves, it was the act of deletion. In our current cultural climate, deletion is a trigger. When a public figure removes content, audiences rarely see it as a simple act of choice. Instead, it is interpreted as a confession, a mistake, or an attempt to hide something. Suddenly, a handful of sun-drenched images turned into the center of a narrative. A narrative fueled by speculation, amplified by the relentless speed of social media, and multiplied exponentially by news outlets eager for clicks, views, and engagement. The story had evolved from leisure to scandal almost instantaneously. Social media users, always on the hunt for drama, pounced on the deleted images. Memes were created. Tweets exploded. Threads analyzing every possible angle began trending within hours. Was this just another example of Meghan exercising her right to privacy? Or was it a subtle admission of impropriety? Even seemingly neutral observers couldn't resist weighing in, with hashtags, commentary, and endless debate. Within a very short time, the deleted yacht photos became more than just a fleeting moment. They became a phenomenon, a cultural touchstone, and a story that demanded to be told and retold. As the controversy gained momentum, mainstream media outlets seized the opportunity. Headlines ranged from the critical to the mocking, from analytical to sensational. Each outlet added its own spin, framing the story in ways designed to capture attention and provoke response. Some focused on the opulence of the yacht, the lifestyle it represented, and the apparent contrast between Meghan's reality and that of the average person. Others highlighted the deletion, framing it as an attempt to erase evidence or control perception. Commentary varied widely, but one thing was clear. The story had reached a point where it could no longer be ignored. The yacht photos had transitioned from private moments into a public spectacle, and the world had tuned in. Criticism wasn't confined to journalists. Influencers, commentators, and ordinary social media users joined the conversation, each bringing their own perspective. Some mocked Meghan, pointing out perceived contradictions between her public statements and private life. Others sympathized, noting the inherent unfairness of judging a person so harshly for enjoying a personal moment. Still, others approached the story with analytical curiosity, asking questions about privacy, media ethics, and societal expectations. What emerged was a complex web of opinion, reaction, and emotion, with the yacht photos at its center. The speed at which the story escalated was staggering. In less than 24 hours, what had begun as a set of photographs had become a viral controversy, dissected and discussed across platforms, programs, and comment sections. It was a masterclass in how quickly a single narrative can spiral out of control, especially when fueled by curiosity, speculation, and the omnipresent hunger of audiences for drama. And at the center of this maelstrom was Meghan Markle, caught between her right to private moments and the unrelenting attention of a global audience. But perhaps the most significant element in this unfolding saga was the human reaction, the emotional undercurrent that drove public engagement. People felt compelled to take sides, to assert opinions, and to debate morality, propriety, and authenticity. Some felt outrage. Some felt disappointment. Some felt amusement. And some, quite simply, felt curiosity they couldn't suppress. The yacht photos had tapped into something deeper than the surface scandal. They had exposed the fragile boundary between public fascination and private life, illustrating the intense scrutiny that comes with fame, wealth, and notoriety. It was in this context that Piers Morgan entered the story. Known for his sharp tongue, fearless commentary, and uncanny ability to amplify controversy, Morgan's involvement guaranteed that the yacht photos would not fade quietly. His live television coverage turned speculation into confrontation, discussion into spectacle, and curiosity into collective obsession. Every comment he made, every expression he conveyed, added fuel to an already volatile fire. The world watched as the story morphed yet again, now driven not just by images or deletion, but by the dynamics of live commentary and public debate. Yet even as Morgan's commentary brought global attention, other voices continued to shape the narrative. Celebrities, social commentators, and media pundits each took their turn weighing in, offering perspectives that ranged from sympathetic to scathing. The diversity of opinion only heightened the tension, as audiences tried to parse truth from conjecture, commentary from opinion, and judgment from analysis. What had started as a few deleted photos had become a litmus test for societal values, a mirror reflecting public biases, and a drama that refused to subside. The yacht photo scandal was a turning point. It was the moment when private moments collided headfirst with the unrelenting gaze of the public. It exposed the fragile nature of celebrity privacy, the power of perception, and the speed at which narratives can escalate beyond control. It also set the stage for what would become an epic clash between Meghan, the media, and the public, between perception and reality, and ultimately, between truth and spectacle. The story was no longer about leisure or luxury. It was about power, control, and the consequences of being constantly observed. And just when it seemed the story had reached its apex, an unexpected twist loomed on the horizon. The initial uproar over the deleted yacht photos was only the beginning. As Piers Morgan prepared to comment on the matter live, as celebrities queued to express their opinions, and as social media continued to churn with speculation, the world braced itself for what would come next. A new wave of commentary, criticism, and reaction was about to hit. And it promised to escalate the story far beyond the original images. What had started as sunlit photos of a woman enjoying a yacht was about to become a cultural phenomenon, a global debate, and an unforgettable media moment. And the first person to ignite the next stage of the story? Piers Morgan himself. It began like any other segment on live television, but no one watching that day could have predicted just how incendiary it would become. Piers Morgan leaned forward, eyes narrowed, a knowing smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. There was tension in the studio, palpable and electric, as the camera focused on him and the topic of the hour, Meghan Markle and her deleted yacht photos. And the moment he spoke, the tone of the story shifted from mere curiosity to confrontation, transforming public speculation into a media spectacle that would dominate headlines for days, weeks, and months to come. Morgan didn't waste time easing into the discussion. Within seconds, he delivered a line that stopped viewers in their tracks. So, Meghan Markle thought she could delete her way out of scrutiny. How quaint. It wasn't just a quip, it was a provocation. Every word was measured, each syllable designed to ignite reaction. The power of his delivery was amplified by his reputation. Audiences knew Morgan wasn't just offering commentary. He was setting a narrative, framing the story in a way that demanded attention and inviting debate. The yacht photos, once a private matter, now became a public trial, with Morgan as both judge and provocateur. What made Morgan's reaction so compelling, so effective, was his ability to combine humor, mockery, and biting critique with an almost theatrical sense of timing. He dissected the images, not in a neutral, analytical way, but with a sharpness that cut to the heart of public perception. "Look at this," he said, gesturing toward the screen. "A duchess supposedly enjoying the high seas while the rest of us are grappling with rent, bills, and life itself." The irony wasn't lost on viewers. Morgan framed Meghan's private leisure as a symbol of detachment, privilege, and, for some, a breach of relatability. The tension was immediate. Some laughed, some gasped, some felt outraged, and all of them were watching. Morgan didn't stop at critique. He questioned motives, dissected context, and poked at inconsistencies. Every deleted photo became a talking point, every smile a subject for analysis, every gesture a potential scandal. He didn't just report on the story, he performed it, turning a seemingly mundane social media incident into a high-stakes spectacle. It was clear that for Morgan, the deletion wasn't a matter of privacy. It was a reflection of a larger narrative, one he was eager to construct and amplify. Meghan Markle is a figure whose every move is scrutinized, criticized, and dissected under the unflinching eye of the public. The effect on viewers was immediate. Social media erupted as clips from the segment were shared, debated, and memified at a record pace. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all platforms lit up with reactions, riffs, and commentary. Fans of Morgan applauded his fearless delivery, while Meghan's supporters bristled at what they saw as an unfair attack. Neutral observers were drawn in, compelled to witness the spectacle and, inevitably, to form an opinion. The segment became a catalyst for conversation, turning private images into a global debate and cementing Morgan's role as both commentator and instigator. Yet there was more at play than simple mockery. Morgan has a rare ability to tap into collective sentiment, to articulate thoughts that many feel but few dare to express. In this case, he tapped into the tension between public expectation and private behavior, highlighting the perceived gap between Meghan's public image and her private choices. Was it fair? Was it justified? Morgan framed the questions in a way that forced viewers to consider not just the yacht photos, but the broader cultural dynamics at play: privilege, celebrity, and the paradox of public fascination. Humor, of course, was a critical component of Morgan's approach, but it was a specific kind of humor, one laced with irony and designed to sting. He didn't rely on cheap jokes or casual commentary. Instead, every remark was crafted to provoke thought, evoke emotion, and encourage audience engagement. The laughter that followed wasn't always pure amusement. It was sometimes nervous, sometimes incredulous, and often tinged with disbelief. Morgan's ability to balance satire with incisive critique ensured that the segment resonated on multiple levels, drawing viewers in while simultaneously provoking debate. In addition to humor, Morgan leveraged emotional contrast. By juxtaposing Meghan's luxurious leisure against the ordinary struggles of everyday life, he created a narrative tension that compelled engagement. Viewers were not just passive consumers. They became participants in the drama, weighing judgments, debating ethics, and evaluating morality. The deleted photos became more than just images. They were a mirror reflecting society's fascination with celebrity, privilege, and perceived hypocrisy. Morgan understood this instinctively, and he wielded it masterfully. But it wasn't just about Meghan. Morgan's commentary also touched on the broader media ecosystem. He highlighted how quickly the story escalated, how the public responded, and how social media amplified speculation. "It's fascinating," he remarked, "how a few deleted photos can set the entire world talking. It's almost like the internet was waiting for a moment like this." The remark wasn't just witty, it was incisive. Morgan captured the essence of modern celebrity culture, the relentless cycle of attention, judgment, and amplification, and framed Meghan's yacht photos as the perfect case study. As the segment progressed, it became evident that Morgan was setting the stage for a broader narrative. He hinted at past controversies, referenced previous missteps, and drew connections between Meghan's current image and her earlier life in the public eye. This layering of context created a sense of continuity and inevitability, suggesting that the yacht photos were not an isolated incident but part of a larger trajectory. Viewers were left with a sense that the story was far from over, that there were layers yet to be revealed, and that the public reaction was only scratching the surface. The live aspect of the broadcast added a level of immediacy and intensity that pre-recorded segments could never replicate. Morgan's reactions were unfiltered, spontaneous, and charged with energy. Viewers could sense his engagement, his anticipation, and his willingness to push boundaries. Every pause, glance, and inflection carried weight, transforming commentary into performance. The yacht photos were no longer just images. They were catalysts for spectacle, and Morgan was the conductor orchestrating the drama. Of course, the reaction wasn't uniform. While many applauded Morgan's incisive critique, others accused him of cruelty, sensationalism, and bias. Discussions spilled over into panel debates, comment sections, and talk shows, creating a feedback loop that amplified the story even further. Every new perspective added complexity, nuance, and tension, transforming what might have been a simple media moment into a cultural event with global resonance. Morgan's live TV segment achieved more than attention. It shifted the narrative. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about deleted yacht photos. It was about public accountability, media ethics, privilege, and the challenges of maintaining personal agency in a world obsessed with scrutiny. Morgan framed Meghan not merely as a celebrity, but as a symbol, a focal point through which broader societal tensions could be explored. The images that sparked the controversy became a prism, refracting issues of class, gender, race, and power into a debate that touched millions. By the end of the broadcast, the story had reached a tipping point. Social media was ablaze. News outlets had already picked up the segment, amplifying every line, gesture, and critique. Viewers felt compelled to engage, to discuss, to form opinions. What began as an individual act of deletion had transformed into a public spectacle with layers of interpretation, judgment, and consequence. And Morgan had ensured that the conversation would not end with a single segment. The fire was lit, and the flames were spreading. Yet, even with all the drama, one thing remained uncertain: how Meghan herself would respond, and how the story would evolve as additional voices joined the fray. Other commentators, celebrities, and media personalities were lining up to weigh in, each eager to stake their claim in the debate. And as the public waited for the next twist, the sense of anticipation grew. Morgan's segment had ignited the spark, but the story was far from complete. The next stage, filled with reactions, rebuttals, and revelations, promised to escalate the scandal to levels few could have anticipated. The yacht photos scandal was no longer just a private misstep or a deleted social media post. By this point, the story had transcended Meghan Markle herself. It had become a spectacle, a conversation that rippled through every corner of the media landscape. And at the center of it all was an unrelenting force: celebrity commentary. When celebrities weigh in, their words carry weight far beyond casual social media chatter. Opinions become narratives, judgments become headlines, and influence spreads like wildfire. The moment Meghan's yacht photos were discovered and deleted, the celebrity world ignited, and nobody seemed willing to remain silent. It began with subtle hints. A tweet here, a vague Instagram post there, a late-night show host making an offhand comment. But once the story gained traction through Piers Morgan's live TV segment, the floodgates opened. Suddenly, every celebrity with a platform felt compelled to contribute. Some spoke with sympathy, defending Meghan as a woman unfairly judged by society's double standards. Others were merciless, framing the deletion as evidence of privilege, arrogance, or a deliberate attempt to hide something. The diversity of reactions created a kaleidoscope of perspectives, with each new voice adding tension, irony, or drama to the story. The social dynamics were fascinating. Some celebrities approached the topic with humor, using irony to highlight the absurdity of the controversy. Comedians joked about the situation, late-night hosts riffed on the yacht images, and meme culture exploded. In one viral segment, a talk show host drew a sharp contrast between Meghan's sunlit leisure and the struggles of the average viewer, eliciting laughter, gasps, and heated debate simultaneously. Humor became a vehicle for commentary, a way to engage audiences while also reinforcing judgments. It was entertainment, analysis, and criticism all rolled into one, a perfect storm for public consumption. Then there were the harsher voices. High-profile figures criticized Meghan outright, questioning the optics of the photos and framing her actions within a broader narrative of accountability. Their commentary often carried a sense of moral authority, a carefully cultivated public persona asserting judgment over someone else's choices. Social media amplified these critiques, with quotes clipped, headlines written, and soundbites shared repeatedly. Each statement, no matter how brief, became part of the larger conversation, feeding the cycle of speculation and scrutiny. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of celebrity commentary was the sheer unpredictability. Some allies of Meghan were caught off guard, trying to defend her without escalating the debate. Their efforts often backfired, either by unintentionally drawing more attention to the photos or by highlighting contradictions in the public discourse. The very act of speaking up became a risk, a delicate dance between loyalty, public perception, and the unpredictable nature of media amplification. It was as if every participant in this cultural storm had to walk a tightrope. One misstep, and the backlash would be swift and severe. Media outlets, of course, were quick to exploit this celebrity commentary. Every tweet, Instagram post, or interview became fodder for headlines. Articles dissected reactions, analyzed tone, and evaluated the implications of celebrity statements. It was an intricate ecosystem. Celebrities reacted, media amplified, the public engaged, and social media ensured that every reaction circulated endlessly. The yacht photos had become more than images. They were a narrative device, a lightning rod for discussion, and a lens through which society examined its own values, biases, and obsessions. One striking example of this phenomenon came from a late-night talk show segment in which the host humorously reenacted the reactions of various celebrities to the yacht photos. The sketch highlighted the absurdity of the debate while simultaneously validating the public's fascination. Clips went viral across platforms, further accelerating the conversation. Audiences were not just passive observers. They were participants, reacting, sharing, and debating, often fueled by the opinions of the very celebrities who had sparked the discussion. It was a feedback loop of influence and amplification, perfectly illustrating the modern dynamics of fame, media, and public discourse. Yet the frenzy was not without emotional undertones. For some viewers, the commentary evoked anger or frustration, particularly when they perceived unfair treatment or double standards. For others, it was a source of schadenfreude, a chance to observe the perceived fallibility of someone elevated to global prominence. Still others experienced confusion, caught between competing narratives and struggling to parse fact from opinion. The yacht photos, once simple images of leisure, had become symbols, loaded with meaning far beyond their original context. Each celebrity comment added nuance, judgment, or irony, contributing to a complex tapestry of public perception. Adding fuel to the fire was the contrast between supportive and critical voices. Celebrities who defended Meghan often emphasized privacy, empathy, and the harsh realities of public scrutiny. They reminded audiences that even those in positions of privilege are human, entitled to personal moments without judgment. Critics, on the other hand, focused on optics, perceived hypocrisy, and societal responsibility, framing Meghan's actions as part of a broader pattern that demanded accountability. The tension between these two perspectives created debate, discussion, and, inevitably, division among audiences. It was a microcosm of larger societal conversations about fairness, privilege, and the ethics of observation. The interplay between celebrity commentary and media amplification reached a fever pitch when high-profile figures began referencing past controversies, adding historical context to the yacht photos. Analysts dissected Meghan's prior appearances, statements, and actions, connecting them to the current scandal. This layering of narrative created depth, complexity, and intrigue. Suddenly, the story was no longer about a deleted image. It was about legacy, perception, and the enduring scrutiny of public figures. Audiences were hooked, compelled to follow every update, every reaction, and every new revelation, knowing that each twist might shift the story in unexpected directions. Social media platforms, as always, played a critical role in sustaining the frenzy. Twitter threads dissected every celebrity reaction, TikTok videos parroted and analyzed the coverage, and Instagram stories highlighted quotable moments. The audience became both consumer and co-creator, interpreting, resharing, and commenting on the narrative as it unfolded. Memes became shorthand for complex commentary, jokes carried subtle critique, and the deleted yacht photos became a canvas upon which public sentiment was projected. What might have been a short-lived story became an enduring cultural phenomenon, sustained by the interaction between celebrity voices and audience engagement. Yet, even amid this frenzy, questions lingered. How would Meghan respond? Would she address the commentary publicly, or would she remain silent, letting the narrative unfold without interference? Would the media continue to escalate the story, or would it eventually fade into the background? The unpredictability of the next move kept audiences riveted, ensuring sustained attention and engagement. Every reaction, from every celebrity, became a plot point in a story that seemed to evolve by the hour. It was storytelling in real time, with a cast of thousands and a narrative that refused to pause. As the days unfolded, it became increasingly clear that celebrity commentary was not just peripheral, it was central to the story. The yacht photos had sparked conversation, but the reactions of high-profile figures gave the story momentum, context, and emotional resonance. Each opinion, whether mocking, supportive, or analytical, contributed to a collective narrative that audiences could follow, interpret, and debate. The scandal had evolved from a private moment into a multi-layered public spectacle, one that demonstrated the power of celebrity influence in shaping perception, framing controversy, and driving engagement. And just when it seemed the story had reached its peak in celebrity discourse, another layer emerged. The reactions had created expectations, norms, and anticipations. Viewers began to wait not just for Meghan's response, but for the next celebrity to weigh in, the next media outlet to interpret, the next social media explosion to erupt. The narrative had momentum, energy, and unpredictability, elements essential for capturing and sustaining public attention. And as the frenzy intensified, the question on everyone's mind became unavoidable. What would happen next? And who would take the story to an entirely new level? The world had spoken. Social media erupted, celebrities weighed in, and Piers Morgan's live commentary had set the tone for a global debate. But one question lingered above all others. How would Meghan Markle respond? In the age of instant communication, every public figure faces a high-stakes dilemma. React too quickly, and it can appear defensive or reactive. Stay silent too long, and it can be interpreted as guilt or indifference. Meghan's response, or perceived lack thereof, would be scrutinized in ways few could imagine, amplified through headlines, memes, and commentary that ensured the story remained alive, urgent, and inescapable. Her first public acknowledgement of the yacht photo controversy was measured, carefully crafted, and strikingly minimalist. Rather than rushing to the microphones or posting an immediate social media statement, Meghan opted for subtlety. A brief message, seemingly casual, was released via her official channels. But in today's climate, no statement is ever neutral. Every word is analyzed, every pause interpreted, every tone scrutinized. The public devours nuance, often twisting intent to fit preconceived narratives. The brevity of her response, meant perhaps to assert composure and control, instead became fodder for speculation. Was she hiding something? Was she admitting fault without saying it outright? Or was she merely exercising the right to privacy that had been denied to her for so long? The nuances of her public response were critical. In a carefully worded statement, she acknowledged that certain images had been deleted, but emphasized the right to personal privacy and the importance of context. She reminded audiences that public figures are human beings, deserving of personal space, moments of joy, and freedom from constant judgment. It was a plea, almost, for empathy in an age where empathy is often overshadowed by outrage. And yet, empathy is rarely universal. Critics seized upon the language, dissecting tone, grammar, and phrasing. Supporters praised her measured approach. Observers marveled at the restraint in a climate dominated by immediacy. The response itself became a mirror, reflecting society's diverse attitudes toward celebrity, privacy, and accountability. The public's interpretation of Meghan's statement was further complicated by timing. In the 24 hours following Piers Morgan's explosive commentary, the story had gone viral. The media had framed deletion as a potential scandal. Memes circulated, opinions were shouted across social platforms, and the public's attention was intensely focused. When Meghan finally responded, it was both a relief and a trigger. Relief for those hoping for clarity, a trigger for those expecting spectacle. Every phrase, every word, was dissected and debated. Audiences questioned intention, analyzed meaning, and, in many cases, projected their own biases onto the statement. It was a masterclass in modern public relations, executed under the unrelenting gaze of a global audience. Yet the emotional resonance of her response was perhaps even more important than its content. In a world where judgment is swift and often merciless, maintaining composure can itself be an act of defiance. Meghan's calm, deliberate tone signaled that she understood the stakes, recognized the potential misinterpretations, and was prepared to endure scrutiny without capitulation. Observers noted the subtle confidence in her demeanor, a quiet assertion that she would not allow viral moments or celebrity mockery to dictate her narrative entirely. In an environment dominated by criticism, maintaining this sense of control was a statement as potent as words themselves. But public response is rarely linear or uniform. While some admired her poise and restraint, others interpreted it as arrogance, aloofness, or an attempt to manipulate perception. Headlines reflected this polarization. Some praised her for standing firm in the face of relentless scrutiny, framing her as resilient and dignified. Others accused her of calculated PR maneuvering, suggesting that every phrase had been crafted to protect image rather than convey truth. This divergence of perception illustrates a fundamental truth about celebrity culture. In the court of public opinion, perception often outweighs intent, and control over narrative is a constant battle. The statement itself contains subtle rhetorical strategies that merit attention. Meghan balanced acknowledgement with emphasis on privacy, using language that suggested transparency without oversharing. She appealed to shared human experience, reminding audiences that everyone deserves moments of joy away from judgment. She positioned herself not just as a figure under scrutiny, but as a voice in a broader cultural conversation about fairness, empathy, and the boundaries between public and private life. This layered approach demonstrated sophistication, foresight, and an understanding of the complex dynamics at play, skills honed through years of media exposure, celebrity visibility, and the pressures of life in the public eye. As the hours passed, her response sparked further analysis. Social media dissected every word, every punctuation choice, every pause in the accompanying video. Journalists highlighted phrases that seemed particularly strong or potentially controversial. Public figures tweeted reactions, either supportive or critical. Commentators debated the implications of measured response versus emotional expression. The yacht photos, once a simple story about deleted images, had evolved into a case study in modern communication strategy, revealing how public figures navigate perception, control, and accountability in an environment dominated by scrutiny. Emotional engagement also played a significant role. Supporters expressed relief and admiration, celebrating what they saw as dignity under pressure. Critics expressed frustration, claiming she had dodged accountability. Observers oscillated between empathy and judgment, reflecting their own biases and expectations. The emotional landscape surrounding her statement was complex, charged, and deeply revealing, demonstrating the power of a single response to generate ripple effects that extend far beyond the initial moment. Yet, even with a measured public response, challenges remained. The commentary, speculation, and scrutiny that had already taken hold were far from over. Piers Morgan's live segment had set a precedent, establishing a tone of judgment and ridicule that others would inevitably follow. The public had been primed to respond, to interpret, and to weigh in, ensuring that the story would continue to unfold across media platforms. Every reaction, positive or negative, became part of a cascading narrative that was difficult to control, even for someone as media-savvy as Meghan. The unfolding scenario illustrated a broader truth about modern celebrity life. In the digital era, privacy is elusive, public perception is relentless, and control over narrative is fragile. Even a carefully crafted response, executed with poise and strategic intent, cannot fully contain the public's appetite for speculation, criticism, or drama. The yacht photos had become a lightning rod, and every reaction, statement, or commentary served to amplify their significance. Meghan's response was a crucial piece, but it was only one piece in an increasingly complex and volatile puzzle. And yet, the story was far from concluded. As Meghan maintained her calm and carefully managed public statement, other voices began to intensify their input. Celebrity allies, media analysts, critics, and social media commentators all added new layers to the narrative. The discussion was no longer solely about the deleted images. It was about the meaning behind the images, the interpretation of public statements, and the broader cultural implications of judgment, privilege, and privacy. Audiences were drawn deeper into the narrative, compelled to follow, react, and speculate, knowing that each new commentary had the potential to reshape the story entirely. The tension was palpable. Every day brought new interpretations, fresh commentary, and evolving perspectives. Audiences waited for the next move. By Meghan, by her critics, and by the media itself. The yacht photos had become a stage on which public opinion, celebrity influence, and media amplification played out in real time, with stakes far higher than any single image might suggest. The story had evolved into a drama of perception, influence, and narrative control, captivating global attention and setting the stage for further escalation. But as the public digested Meghan's measured response, an even more shocking twist loomed on the horizon. Reactions from other celebrities, pundits, and media outlets were about to push the story into uncharted territory, transforming debate into spectacle, commentary into controversy, and speculation into full-blown frenzy. And what happened next would challenge assumptions, ignite new outrage, and leave the world watching with bated breath. It didn't take long for social media to erupt. Within hours of the yacht photos surfacing and Meghan Markle's measured response, platforms across the internet were alive with commentary, memes, debates, and viral posts. Twitter threads stretched for hundreds of replies. Instagram stories analyzed every detail. TikTok users recreated moments with parody and satire, and Facebook groups lit up with heated discussions. The story had leapt from private images to a global conversation, and the speed at which it spread highlighted the unrelenting power of social media in shaping narratives, framing controversy, and influencing public perception. The initial wave of posts was dominated by shock and curiosity. People speculated on why the photos had been deleted, interpreted body language, and debated the optics of a luxurious yacht in contrast to ordinary life. Every detail was scrutinized. The angle of Meghan's sun hat, the choice of outfit, the gleam of the water, even the background scenery. Some tweets were humorous, poking fun at perceived extravagance. Others were analytical, questioning motives or framing the deletion as a subtle PR maneuver. Within hours, hashtags began trending, each iteration attempting to encapsulate the scandal, the controversy, and the broader cultural conversation surrounding it. Memes played a particularly powerful role. The internet thrives on visual shorthand, and the yacht photos provided endless fodder. Some memes exaggerated luxury in comedic contrast to ordinary struggles. Others poked fun at the deletion itself, suggesting absurd theories about why the images were removed. The humor wasn't merely for laughs. It was a lens through which people engaged with the story, expressed opinion, and connected with a global audience. Memes, viral posts, and satire became the new commentary, demonstrating how social media transforms incidents into cultural phenomena in a way traditional media cannot replicate. Engagement on platforms was relentless. Twitter, for example, became a battleground of opinion, with users lining up on either side, supporters defending Meghan's right to privacy and critics insisting on public accountability. Replies multiplied exponentially, and threads became labyrinthine discussions full of conjecture, emotion, and argument. Each post, each retweet, each like contributed to the amplification of the story, creating a feedback loop in which attention itself fueled further attention. The yacht photos, once deleted and seemingly controlled, now escaped entirely into the public domain of discussion, interpretation, and obsession. TikTok added another layer entirely. Users created short, punchy videos dramatizing the situation, parodying celebrity commentary, or reimagining scenarios around the yacht photos. The platform's algorithm amplified viral posts, ensuring that even casual users who had no initial interest in Meghan or the scandal were drawn into the narrative. The result was a proliferation of content that merged entertainment, opinion, and social critique, transforming the scandal into a multi-platform phenomenon with global reach. Audiences not only consumed but actively participated, creating and resharing content, perpetuating cycles of humor, judgment, and engagement. Instagram stories and reels brought a visual immediacy to the narrative. Posts ranged from subtle critiques to elaborate montages, incorporating screenshots of Piers Morgan's live segment, celebrity commentary, and reactions to Meghan's public response. Every share, every tag, and every story contributed to the collective frenzy. Influencers weighed in, adding analysis, humor, or pointed critique, blurring the lines between entertainment, journalism, and social commentary. The intensity of this engagement underscored how social media doesn't just report stories. It shapes them, magnifies them, and ensures their longevity. The emotional spectrum of reactions was equally fascinating. Users expressed outrage, amusement, disbelief, and empathy. Some mocked Meghan for the perceived extravagance and deletion. Others sympathized with her struggle to maintain privacy amid relentless scrutiny. The rapidity and diversity of responses illustrated a core truth about social media. It amplifies not only attention but emotion. Every reaction became a signal to others, encouraging participation, influencing opinion, and sustaining momentum. The story's virality was fueled not by the photos alone, but by the emotional energy they generated in a connected, participatory audience. Celebrities themselves engaged directly with the platforms, adding authority and visibility to ongoing debates. Tweets from high-profile figures were dissected, retweeted, and discussed at length. Short Instagram comments became headlines. Even ambiguous posts prompted speculation and interpretation, demonstrating how the presence of celebrity voices intensifies engagement and shapes narrative perception. The ecosystem of discussion became a multi-layered, interconnected web of commentary, emotion, and amplification, ensuring that the yacht photos remained a hot topic well beyond their initial appearance. The speed of social media engagement also revealed the global nature of the story. Comments came not only from the United States and the United Kingdom, but from audiences worldwide, each bringing different cultural perspectives, biases, and interpretations. The yacht photos became a cultural flashpoint transcending borders, with social media serving as the conduit through which global audiences converged, reacted, and debated. What might have been a local or regional incident became international, demonstrating the unparalleled reach and immediacy of social media platforms. At the same time, social media created pressure for ongoing content and response. The conversation was continuous, and audiences expected updates, reactions, and developments in real time. This created an environment where both the media and public figures were compelled to respond, comment, or react, further escalating the cycle of attention. Every delay, omission, or perceived misstep became a point of speculation, ensuring that the story retained momentum and continued to dominate discourse across platforms. Another critical factor was the speed at which narratives evolved on social media. Within hours, speculation about the yacht photos transitioned from simple curiosity to debates about privilege, media scrutiny, gender dynamics, and even racial perception. Audiences layered their interpretations, linking the deleted images to broader conversations about societal fairness, celebrity responsibility, and the ethics of public judgment. Social media became not only a platform for engagement, but a stage for cultural reflection, where the yacht photos symbolized far more than leisure. They became touchstones for discussion about values, perception, and collective conscience. Amid this maelstrom, the story also produced contradictions, surprises, and irony. Some posts defended Meghan with passion, while others mocked the very act of defending her. Humor and outrage coexisted, often within the same thread or post. Social media magnified these contradictions, creating a narrative landscape that was dynamic, chaotic, and unpredictable. Audiences found themselves drawn into debates that were as entertaining as they were emotionally charged, sustaining interest and engagement over time. Every new twist, whether a meme, a commentary, or a viral clip, ensured the story remained alive and compelling. And yet, despite the saturation of content, the public still hungered for more. People wanted insight, opinion, and clarification. They wanted new angles, new revelations, and the next reaction. The yacht photos had evolved from deleted images into an ongoing narrative, one in which social media acted as both amplifier and catalyst. The momentum was unstoppable, and the intensity of engagement ensured that the story would continue to dominate discussion for weeks, if not months. But just as the world was consumed by social media frenzy, another layer of controversy was about to emerge, one that would push the story beyond memes, hashtags, and commentary into an entirely new dimension of public scrutiny. By now, the yacht photos scandal had exploded across social media, ignited celebrity commentary, and triggered a global conversation. But beyond memes, tweets, and public opinion, a deeper question was emerging. What are the ethical responsibilities of the media in covering private moments of public figures? Meghan Markle's deleted photos were no longer just a story. They had become a case study in media ethics, privacy, and the boundaries of public scrutiny. And as journalists, pundits, and commentators weighed in, the conversation shifted from gossip to principle. The debate began quietly, in editorials and opinion pieces that questioned the treatment of Meghan. Some argued that reporting on the deleted images violated her right to privacy. After all, deletion implied intent, a desire to remove content from public view. But in the 24/7 news cycle, the act of deletion is rarely respected as private. Instead, it is framed as suspicious, noteworthy, and newsworthy, creating a paradox in which seeking privacy becomes a headline. Critics of the coverage contended that this was not merely a matter of reporting. It was an ethical failure, a disregard for human dignity in the pursuit of clicks, views, and virality. Others countered that public figures, especially someone of Meghan Markle's global profile, must accept a heightened level of scrutiny. From this perspective, the yacht photos were fair game. Deletion did not erase their existence. In fact, it often made them more valuable to the media and more alluring to audiences. Every removed image, every carefully curated post becomes a narrative tool, a story waiting to be interpreted. Journalists, the argument goes, have a duty to report, analyze, and contextualize such moments, balancing newsworthiness with ethical responsibility. Where exactly to draw that line, however, became the heart of the debate. Panel discussions across television and online media quickly tackled the ethical question. One host asked bluntly, "At what point does reporting on deleted photos cross from journalism into exploitation?" Another suggested that the media had become complicit in a cycle of judgment, amplifying public fascination while failing to consider the human cost. Commentary ranged from academic analysis to pointed critique, with ethicists, journalists, and media scholars weighing in. Some framed the issue as emblematic of a broader cultural problem, the erosion of privacy in the digital age. Others argued that the expectation of privacy for public figures is inherently contradictory, given the public's right, or desire, to know. The yacht photos, in this context, became a focal point for examining broader systemic issues. They highlighted the tension between public interest and voyeurism, between accountability and exploitation. Audiences were drawn into a meta-discussion about the media itself, considering not just the scandal, but how it was reported, amplified, and consumed. Did the media act as a neutral observer, or had it become an active participant in shaping outrage? And if the latter, what were the implications for trust, responsibility, and journalistic integrity? Ethical concerns were amplified by the nature of commentary surrounding the images. Piers Morgan's live TV segment, for instance, became central to the debate. Critics argued that his mocking tone and deliberate provocation were less about reporting and more about spectacle, turning private moments into public entertainment. Supporters, however, claimed that his role was to challenge narratives, question motives, and push boundaries, a valid journalistic function in a media landscape that thrives on scrutiny. The tension between criticism and mockery became a microcosm of the larger ethical debate. When does commentary cross the line from analysis into harm? The global reach of the coverage also raised questions about accountability. In a connected world, images, commentary, and opinions travel instantaneously across borders, cultures, and legal frameworks. A deleted photo in one country can become a viral scandal in another, interpreted through multiple cultural lenses and judged by a diverse array of audiences. This raises challenging questions for media ethics. Whose standards apply? Who decides what is fair, responsible, or acceptable? And how can journalists balance the imperative to report with the duty to minimize harm? The controversy also highlighted the power of amplification. Once Piers Morgan addressed the photos and celebrities weighed in, the story had essentially taken on a life of its own. Media outlets responded to public demand, audience engagement, and trending content, sometimes prioritizing virality over ethical consideration. Every retweet, every headline, every viral clip contributed to the momentum, creating a feedback loop in which ethical boundaries were continuously tested. The yacht photos became both the story and the instrument through which the story expanded, illustrating the complex dynamics of media influence in the digital age. Debates over ethics were not confined to traditional media. Online communities became hotbeds of discussion, with participants questioning not only Meghan's actions, but also the morality of reporting and commentary itself. Was it fair to dissect a moment of leisure? Was the deletion a private act that should have been respected? Or had Meghan, by virtue of her public profile, invited attention that made scrutiny inevitable? The social discourse surrounding the photos often mirrored professional debate, blurring the lines between consumer and critic, audience and participant, observation and judgment. Some commentators even drew comparisons to past controversies involving other public figures, highlighting patterns of media treatment, public obsession, and ethical lapses. From celebrity mishaps to political scandals, the argument was made that the same principles applied. Private moments, when exposed, are susceptible to judgment, amplification, and moral critique. The Meghan yacht photos controversy became a touchstone, a contemporary example illustrating ongoing tensions in media ethics, privacy rights, and the responsibilities of journalists and content creators alike. Yet amid all the analysis, emotion remained central. Audiences felt strongly, often deeply, about what they were witnessing. Some expressed outrage at perceived violations of privacy, while others felt morally compelled to comment on behavior they deemed questionable. The emotional intensity of the public reaction underscored the stakes. Ethical questions are not abstract, but deeply human. They intersect with empathy, judgment, and societal norms, shaping perception and influencing discourse in ways that go far beyond simple reporting. Media scholars and ethicists pointed out that this incident reflects a broader cultural shift, the blurring of personal and public life, the erosion of privacy norms, and the transformation of audiences from passive consumers into active participants in narrative creation. The yacht photos, their deletion, and the ensuing commentary serve as a case study in the power of media and the ethical dilemmas inherent in a hyper-connected, attention-driven culture. The debate reached a new level when questions of bias entered the discussion. Some argued that Meghan faced disproportionately harsh scrutiny because of her gender, race, and status as a former actress turned royal. Others contended that celebrity privilege naturally invites judgment, and that media attention was inevitable.